Hey guys, welcome back. It's Cass. As promised, this is part 2 of my nursing time management video for my newbie babies. I just wanted to do something to kind of help you guys organize your life if you're feeling overwhelmed on the floor. Maybe you've already been getting precepted and you still feel like, bro, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm confused still. So this is kind of something to help you start your shift and get a good flow. And I wanted to show you guys how I worked on my assessment sheet and what I filled in and stuff of that nature. So I'm going to do that with you. But before we get started, if this is your first time here, please tippity tap the bell, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment down below. Let me know how long you've been a nurse, if you're still in nursing school, like any questions you may have, what videos you want from me. So I definitely want to give you guys way more nursing content. So we're going to get started, guys. So right now I have a sheet. When I got to this new hospital, they actually gave this to me. Because I didn't have Epic, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to use? This is insanity. But it ended up working out really, really nice. So I ended up using Cerner, which was new to me, but I didn't mind it at all. So it was nice to have that. This is the 5-patient vertical brain sheet. I will link down below where I got this from. This is very similar to the one that I was using in California, and I really, really loved it. I actually like the vertical better than the horizontal because I feel like I always use a clipboard, and so the clipboard is, if you don't have one, get one. The little foldable ones, they rock. And also I like to use the clipboard as a tray to like hold my patients' medications and stuff. Anyways, so like I said, guys, I like to write down a few little things when I'm getting started for the day. So we have a patient, they're in room 1. If they're on isolation, this is the perfect time, especially if you're working with any type of post-op patient. A lot of the times you want to make sure, do they have MRSA? Especially with any like wounds or anything like that, you want to make sure there's nothing going on so you can keep yourself safe and keep them safe, of course. Sometimes those things get miscommunicated, or they weren't able to put the sign up on the door. So, you know, I like to ask like, hey, do they have like any infections going on? Just things to think about. Of course, we have the patient's name. We're going to just put XYZ because I can't think right now. Okay, the diagnosis. This is the perfect time where you can put like, okay, if they had a right total knee. I love a good shorthand, and I always love to circle what side that we're dealing with so I know what to really be thinking about. Of course, the code is also important. We're going to put full, okay, because they just came for surgery. They didn't come for nothing crazy. Level of activity, fall level. If they had a fall, that's something I definitely want to know. I'm going to write it in some big red letters. Okay, we're going to circle it because they took a tumble. That's why they're here. A lot of this stuff I didn't really fill out, especially once you become a seasoned nurse. You don't need a lot of the paperwork. You don't need a lot of it. You just need a little something to write down your meds and someplace. I personally just need someplace to write down my meds and someplace to check off my charting to make sure I'm getting all my charting done for every hour that I need to chart. So, but these little vertical papers are really good. So when you're first starting, take time to fill it out every single time, because at my old job, we use report sheets. In California, they don't use report sheets. It's so weird. They just print you out this little patient list with like a little bit of information, but nothing detrimental. And I'm just like, how do y'all not have report sheets? So at my old job, I didn't have to write too much down because we just kept handing the report sheet back to whichever nurse got it, and we would update them. If the patient had been there for longer than 10 days and the paper looked a mess, we just start a new one, but we always gave the report sheets back. In California, they didn't have that. So always write your own stuff down so you just never know. Anyways, IV site is also important. I always want to know, do you have a 22, a 18? Because if they're getting blood or anything, or if you know they're somebody that's getting a lot of antibiotics, you can also be thinking in your head, I need to go ahead and drop another IV, because you want them to have 2 sites. Especially if they're coming from the ER. Whenever someone comes up from the ER, I already just go ahead and get a new dressing. It's because for some reason, a lot of these facilities are now using this Tegaderm dressing in the ED, and it's never secure enough. And I'm not the best IV starter, so I would hate to lose a good AC, baby. It's not going to happen for me. Okay. Now, blah, blah, blah. Abnormal labs, like I said, I like to do potassium, a little bit of hemoglobin, their glucose. You know, just write the numbers down. So PRN meds, I like to just kind of fix it up. I would do their BP here and heart rate. If you know that they've been running a temp, just write some little stuff down, like a baseline, so you have a baseline for your patients. Then right here where it says notes is where I would start writing my meds. So for 20, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm pretending like I'm looking at the med list. This is stuff that I'm seeing in the chart. This is what's scheduled, and I'm just writing it down. All right, so at 8 p.m. they have a Colace, a heparin, and a potassium tablet due. 10 p.m. they have a Zosyn that needs to be hung. When I see something like an antibiotic, I always check what time it was hung before. Like I mentioned in the previous video, not everything is going to be given at the right time. You would love to think that it would, but sometimes people get busy. And you know, a medication that was due at 2 p.m. doesn't get given until 18:45. And now, you know, it's due again at 9 p.m., but you can't give that dose. So if you need to call the pharmacy to get it the time suggested or anything, I like to get all of that stuff done before I even start passing meds. If I got to call the doctor because I noticed, oh, hey, their potassium is like, it's not super low, but it's like 3.2. Do you want to start giving some potassium tablets tonight? That way we can avoid that whole IV 10 bag every hour situation, especially if you know it's your first night and this patient is a rehab patient. They're not leaving tomorrow, so you're possibly going to have them for the next 3 nights. Do you really want to hang all those potassium bags by night 3? I don't. So if I see that they're already trending low potassium wise, I'm going to just ask the doctor, hey, can we just throw in a little 40 milligram tablet 9 to 9, like 9 a.m. 9 p.m. and kind of get started on that potassium, you know what I mean? So same thing goes with antibiotics. If I see a Zosyn, I want to know, was it really given at 1 p.m.? Was it given at the 3 o'clock? Like, what time did you really hang it, so I can count the exact hours and I can make sure I'm not giving it too soon, because I don't want to, you know, hurt the patient. Safety is the biggest thing. So I'm always checking the time. Always. And the same thing goes for if I do give it, I'm going to go ahead and double check, because again, you have to give it another 8 hours later. So I want to make sure, okay, I didn't hang it at 10 p.m. I ended up hanging it at 23:45. Now I know what time to give it. You know what I mean? You just have to think about these things ahead of time. And since they have the Zosyn, they also have this Synthroid. I can either give everything at 5, a little hour early, because a lot of the patients do wake up early, or I can give everything at 6. It just depends on how you're feeling that night. You know what I mean? So those are just little things that you can do. I really, really love this sheet. I also have a specific sheet that I did for Epic. I'm going to show you guys that one as well right now. So this is the sheet that I created for Epic. So this huge big blank space that you guys are seeing at the top, this is, whew, girl, Epic. I love you, girl. Epic, their patient list is so beautiful, and the fact that you can organize it to a T is also superb. I also am going to include a little surprise for y'all in a minute. But essentially what you can fit at the top of here is you can print out all up to 6 patients in this little section. If you print this paper out and then put it into your work printer the right way, you can print out your work list from Epic on the top of this. As you can see at the bottom, I have the room. Then I have a huge empty space, which if that looks familiar to the sheet before you, that's where I write my meds. And then I have 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6. That's where I'm checking off every time that I have to do something. This is also a good space to write down. Okay, say you have somebody who's on the CWA protocol or they have a PCA pump. You know that you have to chart Q2 on those things as well. So it's never in the same tab, of course. So sometimes you can forget that. Like, you can keep walking in the room and writing everything down as much as you want, but sometimes you really can forget that you have a PCA or the person's on CWA, because you're just pulling the Ativan and giving it. You're like, oh, it's in the MAR. You need to write it down. So like, I love to go ahead and put like PCA in here so I can remember, okay, I started charting it at 8. I need to keep charting it again at 10, again at 4, right? Or if they're on CWA, I'm doing the same thing. I want to check, I have to chart here, I have to chart here, and I have to chart here. Or if they have a Foley, I also treat that as a med as well. So say you have a post-op patient and they have all of their meds. A lot of the times from the facilities that I've been in, they want you to pull the Foley out at like 4 or 5 in the morning. So that way, by the time the doctor has come back in the morning, they can say, hey, the patient already peed. They're doing what they have to do post-op. They're passing a little gas. They can go home today. So that's like the perfect time. So I'll make it a med, like put it on my med list to pull the Foley. That way I cannot forget it, because again, no matter how long you've been doing it, a lot of times you say, oh, for sure, like I know they have a Foley, I know I have to pull it out, and then something happens at 4 in the morning, now it's 6, you're giving a report and you're still looking at the Foley bag. Wasn't I supposed to take that out 2 hours ago? If you wrote it down like a med, you wouldn't have forgot. You wouldn't have forgot, guys. So this person is a simple, you know, they just have a Zosyn and a heparin due. Did I spell Zosyn right? Okay, so this patient's easy. They just have a Colace and a heparin. They have a Zosyn at 10 p.m. And then you got to remember to pull out their Foley at 4 in the morning and also hang their Zosyn again. Simple. I love a good night like that. I'm not going to lie. Surgery patients are good for that. But sometimes you get on a medical floor, like when I get floated to medical floors, and then you get patients that just have a Colace and they're not taking any pain medication. And you're like, oh, wow. Pain meds too. So pain meds, you know, you have to do reassessments for those. I will put that in this time slot as well. So if I know I gave something at 8 p.m., I'll put that they have pain. I'll just put pain, and that's how I know that I have to do a pain reassessment. You know what I mean? Because again, that's charting that you don't want to forget. That's something your manager is definitely going to call you for and be like, girl, you gave a Dilaudid, you didn't say how the person, but like, we have to do pain reassessments. You know what I mean? So anything that could slip your mind, I like to write down. And it's always those little things. They're so tiny, but they're also really, really big in nursing world, because you have to make sure that you're charting on your PCA. Have to make sure that you're doing pain assessments, because we're talking about narcotics here. Everything needs to be charted, guys. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, is just try to make sure you have the best charting. So I wish I had an example of what the Epic sheet would look like, but just trust me, guys. It's so fabulous to just have your patients here. So this little gem right here, guys. Okay, so if you're using Epic, go to your properties list right now. Well, obviously not right now. Well, keep this in the back of your noggin, take a screenshot on your phone, do what you have to, but go into your properties and get ready to do what I'm showing you. So I like to start off with the patient location. That's going to tell you what room they're in. It's the greatest way to organize your list. Don't play yourself. Always do it this way. Next is the patient's name. Have to know that. Their age and gender, also important. Their admission date. You don't know how many times you be in report and somebody's like, so what day did they come? Especially when it's somebody who's been there for 7 million years. Now, girl, why are you asking me that? But when you have your little report sheet, it's not even a problem. Sure, I can tell you. Admission diagnosis, super important. You can also add the admission procedure. Again, if you work on a surgical floor, this is the way to go, because I promise you, if you're taking care of 5 total knees, you're not going to remember left, right every single time. And that be really getting you, because sometimes somebody be like, hey, I'm about to do an x-ray. Can you come, blah, blah, blah. Or a tech will be like, hey, I'm about to get them up. Do you know if they can stand up? And I'm like, what surgery did they have again? Was it just their shoulder, or did they get a hip? Blah, blah, blah. So knowing their procedure is really, really important. And then this will tell you like the side. They had a left total knee or whatever. The diet orders and comments with display name. I don't know what the comments with display name. I can't remember what it looks like. But anyways, knowing the diet is super good. I love Epic because they'll even tell you, like, if somebody's on a regular diet and then they'll say to be NPO at midnight, that'll be in this column too. Super cool. Their attending doctor also, because you want to know if they're hospitalist or if they're with the surgeon, because everybody, I don't know why everybody doesn't have hospitalist on board. It actually, like, I could get on my pedestal about that every day. If their attending is their surgeon because they were like a direct admit or whatever have you, if something medical is going on, you still have to call the surgeon. So now you're on the phone line, you're telling them to get the call back, you have to do the whole callback number. Oh, it's so much drama just for them to say, hey, let's get a on board. Like, we have to get hospitalists on board. So I like to know if they're hospitalists, because I want to know who I can call immediately. Their code status, y'all know that's important. Are they DNR or not? The unacknowledged orders. Oh my Lanta. This is one of my favorite columns on Epic, and I'll tell you why. Especially when you work on a surgical floor, or if you're getting a lot of admissions because you work on a medical floor. This column right here is going to save you, because there's been so many times where I've had new nurses be like, oh my God, I just got a patient from PACU. Their pain is at a 10 out of 10. I went to go try to pull medication. There's nothing ordered. And I'm like, no. Well, did you release the orders? And they're like, huh? And I'm like, did you release the orders? They were like, well, nothing popped up on the chart, so I didn't know I had to. And I'm like, it gets you every time, because Epic doesn't just say unacknowledged orders when you open the chart. It never says that. So the unacknowledged orders section is a great place to look. And I honestly got in the habit of looking at it every single time with every patient, because sometimes they would have stuff from like 2 or 3 days ago that had just kind of built up and nobody released them. And the reassess pain, I really could cry, because Cerner, you know, she wasn't giving this. The reassess pain section tells you exactly what time you have to do your next reassessment. The exact time. So I didn't even have to, at one point, I didn't even have to write them down anymore, like on my little paper, how I was telling you guys. I didn't have to write down when I had to do a pain reassessment because it was always right there on my chart. Every time I logged in, it was beautiful. The RN notifications, I can't remember what was over there, but it was important, so go ahead and add it on in. The shift documentation and the admission documentation, the required, this was one of my favorite things. So if you're a person who kind of gets overwhelmed with charting, you don't know what's going on, you don't know if you really completed everything, this is like a red light, green light situation. If it's green, that means you did everything fine, you're Gucci. If you didn't, that means that you did not finish all of your charting. And what I love about Epic, I want y'all to really understand, because I don't have it in front of me, that little bottom tab beneath your patient list, okay? That is the best way to look at your chart without actually looking in your chart when you don't have time. So like when you need to write your meds down, you can click those tabs. So there's an admission requirement and shift doc tab down there, and you can literally, it'll tell you exactly what you're missing, and you can click the hyperlink. It takes you right there to the chart where you need to chart. Did I mention I love Epic? Put me on the poster for them. They my dogs. The Muse and the Muse time since review, we had to do that at my job. So the Muse kind of just tells you it's either red, yellow, or green. And that's telling you if the patient is either getting better or getting worse. Just like lab-wise, basically Epic is like every single thing that you put into Epic, has its own algorithm that either is telling you whether the patient is getting septic or if they're getting better kind of thing. So if I see that it's yellow, I like to hover over it. It'll tell you why sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, but I like to double click it and go and look at all their vitals and look at their labs. I'm like, what's off? Why are you yellow? Because once it turns red, baby, you're definitely getting that sepsis pop up as soon as you open the chart. And now you're looking sick because you're like, septic? How did we get here? And you calling the doctor, now you're doing the workup. Ooh, girl, you want to be ready for something like that. Because if it's red, you have to be ready to open the chart, okay? Tele orders. Oh, I love this one because it puts a little red heart and you can know that they're on telemetry. This was very important because I always wanted to know if somebody was on tele, and obviously it's important because you would want to know if somebody's on tele, because if you see the red heart and then they don't got a box, it's like you haven't been getting monitored. But sometimes it's just because the order wasn't DC'd properly. So that's when you can call the doctor and be like, hey, I have an active tele order, but the patient doesn't have a box. Do you want it back on? Do you want it off? How are we feeling? So we can DC and get that out of the way. And of course, the held orders, that's the same thing I want to say as the unacknowledged orders. So you can kind of see on both of those columns. But this is a great way to set up your patient list, guys. All right, guys. So now I'm going to just show you kind of like a shorthand version of my little report sheet. Keep in mind, I did this on the little sticky notes. Everybody was really, I don't know. I just like to be organized, and my manager, my coworkers at my travel assignment were very impressed with this because I used to fold them accordion style on this little sheet, and right where I have my medications written, I would lay them down horizontally, so that during report I would just turn my clipboard this way and roll the report paper down and be like, so this patient's here for this and they're here for this, and they'll be like, why did you write all that down and who do you think you are? And I'm like, well, I mean, y'all didn't give me a report sheet, so I want to make sure I'm giving a report properly, because you asking a lot of questions. I gotta have the answers, don't I? All right, so I would start off with the patient's room. So they're in 201. Their last name first. They are patient, comma, XYZ. 73-year-old male. And I like to put their admitting date. So we'll just put today's date, which is, ooh, child, we're not in September no more. October 6, 21. Which, again, is important to know because if the patient's been here for too long, it's like, okay, why are you still here? Not in a negative way, but do you need to go to rehab? We need to kind of get that working for you, because everybody knows, especially with older patients, the longer they stay in the hospital, the worse things get, man. A lot of the times they become altered. I just, if you need to go home, we got to get you there. So once I write that, then I like to write why they came. So they had to write TKA. If they're a surgery patient, I always write who the doctor is. Dr. Kneecap. He did the surgery, because I promise you, a nurse is going to ask you in a report, who did the surgery? It's in the chart. Y'all know the nurses that really be asking just the most intense questions, and it's like, so do you not plan on looking in the chart at all, or you want me to give you the whole chart? You want me to read the whole chart to you right now? Okay. So right TKA by Dr. Kneecap, they had this surgery done on, we'll say they've been here since 10/6. Oh, so they also had it on 10/6. Okay. So they had the surgery this morning. They're new. They're here. If they have a Foley or not, or if they're due to void, they're still due to void. So now that's something that I have to worry about, because do I need to bladder scan you? Am I going to have to straight cath you? I go ahead and, especially with male patients, do you have any prostate issues? Go ahead and tell me now, buddy. Tell me now. So we're going to stand up right now. We're going to try to pee, or I will bladder scan you. And everybody knows when you tell a male patient that you're going to bladder scan them and straight cath them, all of a sudden they can pee. They're like, wait, you want to do what? Girl, let me try on my own. Get out of here. I'm like, all right. See you later. Okay, so they're due to void. So we know they came for a right TKA. We can say that he had a, well, let's say he's a hip, because then it'll make sense. He's a right total hip by Dr. Kneecap. So this is where I would write like, okay, he had a fall at home on 10/5. We can say, you know, if he hit his head, blah, blah, blah. Just a little shorthand version, because sometimes that stuff is necessary. Like, you want to know how they fell, if it's multiple falls, you know, stuff like that. Then I would also write their history here. So he's a diabetic. He has hypertension. What else does Mr. Patient have? Diabetic, hypertensive, history of constipation. So those are the things I'm going to be watching out for. Want to check their blood sugar, blah, 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 blah. So I'm already writing their BP down. He's 120/80. We're going to keep it real simple. His sugar, he's 112. He's not getting nothing from me tonight. No insulin, okay, because you're low. And also, you know, he's post-op. So are they really eating? I want to know if you ate or not, buddy. Did you have dinner? Let me know. Maybe they're eating dinner now. If that happens and my patient is eating a little bit later, like they took the blood sugar and then they're eating, I check the blood sugar again, just to make sure that they're not like super high or whatever. Like, I'll give them some time and check them, and then I'll pull the insulin later and give it to them if they need to have that. I'll just like to let them eat first. So their history, diagnosis, the blood pressure, rehab. He does have a wife at home, just in case I need to call her and update her. Then I'll go ahead and find the phone numbers too, just in case I need to call my girl and give her any updates. Just little stuff like that. I also like to write down their allergies. This is also a good time to, when you go through the notes, see if they had any procedures while they were there. So he had a CT because he hit his head when he fell. He got on the side of the toilet. So he had a CT on 10/6. A few days later, you want to know exactly when they had this stuff, on the 6th. And it was negative. So yeah, so this is just a shorthand. The patient's just a regular, you know, total hip. So yeah, this is just a great shorthand version of a good report sheet. Go through the patient's chart, kind of get to know them a little bit more, and then also be able to update the oncoming nurse and give them good information. Because like I said, some people just ask you so many questions, and I personally hate feeling overwhelmed during report. Like, let me just give you a report and save the questions for the end of the tour, okay? Because you're stressing me out. Stop asking me all this stuff while I'm trying to tell you why they're here. But you'll run, especially when the nurses, they've been doing this for a long time. They're like, oh, does he have this? Is he on this? Did he take this? So did he do? And it's like, but with your little script, girl, I let them know nice and early. I start unfolding that they already know what time it is. I'm about to get to talking. So shh. If you have any questions at all, never be afraid to message me here. Well, you can't message me here, but never be afraid to email me, DM me on Instagram. I talk to a lot of my little fresh newbie nurses on IG. Oh my gosh, I have to check on one of my girls. She took her NCLEX a few weeks ago. But I have a lot of newbie nurses that are always talking to me, asking me about how I study for the NCLEX and, you know, how I'm dealing with work and how I deal with this, and this. And so I love answering your questions. Never feel like you're bothering me. I love being able to help people. This is why I do what I do on YouTube and in nursing. So yeah, I love you guys so much. I hope that this was helpful. Please let me know what videos you want to see down below. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.